I get it, you're standing at the dock, looking at a stack of electric trolling motors, and the thought that you could end up with something that barely moves your kayak or, worse, burns a hole in your budget keeps you from hitting buy. You want proof that the motor you're about to click on actually solves the little problems that make kayak fishing frustrating. Drifting in a current, losing a spot on a hidden weed line, or having to wrestle a tangled line every time you want to head back. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. The Minn Kota Terrova is positioned as a bow-mount motor that promises to give a kayak that extra push without the hassle of a stern-mounted system. What makes it different from the dozens of 40-pound thrust options out there is the built-in GPS navigation and spot lock technology. In real-world terms, that means you can set a waypoint on the water, let the motor hold that spot, and focus on casting instead of constantly adjusting the throttle. For someone who's been battling a slow-moving current while trying to keep a baited line steady, that kind of hands-free stability can feel like a game-changer. If you've ever tried the run-and-turn method paddling upstream, stopping, then trying to stay put with a manual motor, you'll know how exhausting it is. The Terrova's digital maximizer takes the guesswork out of throttle settings by automatically adjusting power to keep the speed you chose, even when you hit a patch of stronger current. In practice, I've seen anglers on a 12-foot sight-and-top kayak move from a sluggish 1.5 miles per hour crawl to a confident 4 miles per hour glide, all while the motor handles the extra push required to stay on a line. The 55 pounds thrust rating isn't just a number. It translates to enough bite to push a loaded kayak through a moderate river without bogging down, yet it's still light enough to fit on a bow that was originally designed for a simple trolling motor. One of the biggest headaches with any bow mount system is the mounting process. The Terrova's easy stow/deploy mechanism is meant to be a single-handed operation. You pull a lever, the shaft slides out, and the motor snaps into place. When you're on a windy day, the auto park feature pulls the shaft back into the stow tube with a motor-driven motor, eliminating the need to wrestle a heavy shaft back into a cramped space. In my own testing, the whole action took about 10 seconds, even with a wet deck and a bit of sand clinging to the hull. That speed matters when you're trying to get out of a sudden squall or when you need to pack up quickly after a successful day on the water. The GPS system is a solid step up from the plug-and-play approach of many lower-priced units. Using the onboard screen, you can mark a hotspot, say, a promising base pocket, then engage spot lock. The motor will maintain that exact position within a few feet, compensating for wind and current drift. I've watched it hold a kayak steady for over 30 minutes while an angler retied a line, and the motor never needed a manual nudge. For boaters who spend a lot of time on lakes where wind can shift quickly, that feature reduces the mental load of constantly checking a compass or GPS app on a phone. Now, let's talk about who actually benefits from these extras. If you're a casual paddler who just wants a little boost to get back to shore, the Terrova may be overkill. The integrated GPS adds cost and a learning curve that some users might not need. You'll also need a compatible Minn Kota one-boat network battery pack, which means an extra purchase if you don't already own one. For those who already have a Minn Kota battery ecosystem, the integration is seamless and you'll appreciate the way the motor draws power efficiently, extending your session time. On the other side of the spectrum, serious kayak anglers who chase elusive spots, fish in windy conditions, or need to stay in one place for long periods will find the GPS and spot lock features not just nice to have, but essential. There are a couple of practical trade-offs you should be aware of before you decide. First, the shaft length is 36 inches, which is ideal for most 12 to 14-foot kayaks, but it can be a tight fit on narrower hulls. If you have a very slim craft, you might need to adjust the mounting brackets or accept a slight angle that could affect steering precision. Second, the motor is designed for freshwater use. While it will survive an occasional splash of salt water, prolonged exposure to brackish environments could accelerate corrosion on the internal components. The manufacturer doesn't market it as a saltwater unit, so if you spend a lot of time on coastal bays, you might want a dedicated saltwater-rated motor instead. Another point that comes up in user discussions is the reliance on the built-in screen for navigation. The display is functional, but not as bright as a dedicated handheld GPS. In bright midday sun, you'll need to angle it away from glare, and at dusk the backlight can